Namaste and welcome to Take 3. I'm Anand Narasimhan and with me Tom Cooper and Rahul Shivshankar. Many are perhaps turning around and asking, even as the markets are tanking, they're seeing their investments sink 3 to 5%, 6%, some markets all across the world, viewers. And the American markets have not yet opened and they will also face the brunt of this war. And many must be thinking, why are you burning our pockets while you bomb another country? It's your war, you go fight it. Why bring us in and why drag us into it? Is something many people will be asking Israel and Donald Trump. Where's the justification for this as we enter into day 10? The other part is, this regime is not changing. One Khamenei gone, another Khamenei appointed. They are going to continue in this. So where are we headed? That's the question. Rahul, your thoughts?
I'm just going to tee off with what he said. It's a small price to pay. I mean, just look at the way Trump has framed his response. That all of you countries who are bleeding, it's a collateral because of what Trump has done in his zeal, ill-defined goals, entire campaign going sideways. We have to bear that cost now. That's basically what he seems to be implying. And he says, deal with it. And this is not new. This has been happening since the time he's come into power. So whether it was the trade sanctions, don't worry, deal with it. It's your cost, your little price. It's okay. To be my friend, you need to pay. There's a consistent underlying narrative that sort of frames his time in office. So whether it's the trade, weaponizing trade, or now weaponizing, literally this war, it's been consistent. And sometimes one has to wonder, is Iran actually now beginning to gain the upper hand? I'm not saying militarily, but I'm saying in a different way, because I'm seeing, there's now a bit of a divide in Europe over this. There's a pushback happening. In the Gulf, they've taken a lot of damage to their oil fields, etc., Strait of Hormuz. And Iran itself is not packing its cards in.
I don't know. Tom, your thoughts as a military historian, till the time the entire Muslim world comes together, Iran is not going to find itself stronger. It can continue to drag this, but it's right now driven a wedge in the Muslim world itself because it's not made friends around it. Your thoughts there? Or you agree with Rahul?
I largely agree with Rahul. Iran has no chance of even seriously challenging the United States, the military might of Israel and the United States. It is causing a problem, but it's going to get overpowered in a matter of probably 2 weeks or something. But the point is that it is resisting, and as long as it resists, and this resistance is even single missile fired at Israel or anybody else, it's still there. And you cannot simply discount it. One cannot simply say, oh, who cares about Iran? We have destroyed them. This is not going to happen anytime soon. So Trump has miscalculated badly.
He's miscalculated
as badly as Putin has miscalculated in Ukraine. Yeah. That's why I'm calling it...
Really? That level?
That level,
wow.
Yes. I would even go as far as to say that the Israelis have figured this out already on the second day of the war, and that's why we then started collecting or receiving reports about talks with PKK, with Kurds and with Azeris and with Baluchis and so on and so on. Perhaps it was their plan B from the start, the Israeli plan B to do something else instead. Perhaps it was their plan E, part of the plan E right from the start, who knows, we are going to see that sometimes in the future. But even the Israelis are meanwhile obviously convinced that Trump is...
The Iranians seem to have gained this because there are top voices in Iran who are now saying that the attempt is not just to divide the Muslim world but also to break Iran up. Now, this is the first time in the last 8 or 10 days that the Iranians have come out and said that this seems to be the longer gameplay. Something that you had called out long back on day 2, day 3 itself. You had said that eventually it will progress to in this direction. Anand, watch out for the MEK and the PKK, the Kurds, the Azeris, and also to try and they'll try and break Baluch also, in trying to breaking Iran up into smaller fragments. That's what they did with Iraq and how Iraq came into being because there was fragmentation in the past.
You can see the same pattern everywhere. Libya, Syria, okay, Syria now currently not that successful, but still, you can see this pattern in Yemen. This is where United Arab Emirates were acting that way. You can see this pattern in Ethiopia, in Sudan. So it's always the same. They're trying to break up the country into para-states which are actually ungovernable, and then control them from far away, because this is making things easier for them.
What happened in Europe with Yugoslavia? You know, it broke into so many smaller countries, and then they continue to fight with each other. Is this a game plan which nations do, powerful nations do? And where is the UN in all of this? Barring making certain statements. Now, had an India done this,
Look,
what would have been the scenario had an India done this, barged into a neighboring country and say, I want to decimate you, I want to bomb you because I don't like you?
Imagine last year, for example, India would have said, okay, now we have the total control actually over the Pakistani Air Force. Now let's smash them completely. Then let's kill Pakistani government. Then let's occupy the countries. It's similar, something similar, without, of course, the actual occupation. India never did this, so that is the point.
No, but if India were to
UN, since you asked about the UN, I would like to come to this point. UN is only as good as its members, and if these members are countries like Israel, supported by the United States, which is violating the UN Charter already ever since established 1948, and that without any kind of accountability, then you can't expect UN to do anything now. It has absolutely no chance in these regards, because there are too many precedents for Israel coming away with it, United States coming away with it, and several other Western powers coming away with it.
Why are other nations collectively, Rahul, not putting sanctions on the US? No, what stops an India from turning around and saying, hey, listen, if you're going to topple the regime there and you're going to decide who's going to be, you want to say on who's going to be the next prime minister, president, or whatever religious leader in Iran, then I need to know I need to be able to decide who's the next prime minister in Pakistan and who's going to be the next president or prime minister in Bangladesh, because these are my backyards. Or I should be allowed to decide who should be in Nepal, because this is immediate security for me. You're sitting 5,000 miles away and you want to decide for world peace. I want for regional peace, I want to decide in this neighborhood.
Okay, so do you want Rahul Shivshankar to be honest, or do you want him to be diplomatic? Because I can be quite diplomatic.
You can be honestly diplomatic.
Okay, so I'll be honest. I'll put on my RSS honesty cap, okay? The hard facts cap. Look, this whole thing, Trump has broken down 3 or 4 notions.
Yeah.
Number one, that there is something called genuine multipolarity in the world. Okay? I don't believe there is multipolarity in this world.
Right.
What Trump is showing you, now why he's doing it is a different matter. What he's showing you is that if America wants to go to war, no one can stop it. Where is China? It's missing in action. It's hiding in the shadows somewhere. Perhaps providing, and maybe, Tom can explain that better, maybe giving some intelligence on where US ships are, troops are, radars are, this and that. Okay? But beyond that, I'm not seeing anything. Russia is too involved, too stretched,
With Ukraine,
too attenuated, exactly, weakened, or distracted to bother. It's only eyeing an opportunity here. Okay, if the Gulf dries up, then everyone will come and buy my oil, right? That's what they're looking at. This is their game. India doesn't have the heft to poke Trump in the eye. That is pretty clear from the way the negotiations on trade have also gone. Yes, we have put our foot down, but on certain things, we had to give. We could not ignore the United States of America. Europe today requires the security umbrella of the United States. They were the first bloc after UK to sign that trade agreement. Third country was Japan.
Yeah.
Just look at the timelines.
Correct.
Okay, 15%, this percent, that percent. There is no one who can actually get up today and say to Trump, back down, buddy. This is not working for us. This is working against us. America's interests, they are not buying oil from the Gulf anymore. They deleveraged about a decade and a half ago.
Okay.
The only thing they've lost is Halliburton, to be very honest. Okay? And that was, I feel, the cold hand of history slapping the Americans back. Because you know what happened in Iraq.
Yeah.
You know who gained it was Halliburton, and it was Dick Cheney,
Yeah.
Scooter Libby, that entire gang that worked under then Bush. Many people said Bush was just the figurehead, and these guys were running the roost.
Yeah.
So that's basically what is happening here. Let's get off our high horses and let's look at the basic picture. America is doing what it wants. The Gulf states can't do anything about it. Whether Israel has put them up to it is another debate. But unless, and remember another thing, it's very funny that Trump is doing it even though he's the only American war president whose approval ratings haven't gone up.
Gone up.
When America is fighting a war.
His own domestic constituency does not want a war.
Because my dear friend, and you guys had said this the other day, he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He has another 2 years in office.
Doesn't
He's
care.
happy.
Okay. There are 2-3 developments that are happening even as we are speaking. One is Mujtaba Hussain is expected to address, and there is a gathering coming out in Tehran. Yes. Bombs are raining on Tehran, but people are coming out on the streets to hail their new supreme leader. That's what we are given to understand. The other part, there is in the last 2 hours, oil prices had dropped $15 a barrel. But they've dropped below $104 a barrel now, and we're putting it on our screen right now, that the crude oil prices have come down by about $15 per barrel in the last 2 hours, and G7 nations are planning to release about 400 million barrels of oil. So clearly there is an effort to try and curb or stymie a possible energy crisis across the world. So it's not that they're not mindful of how much is going to burn other people's pockets. But my question, Tom, is why are all nations, see, India alone, China alone cannot put sanctions on the US. But all other countries can turn around together and say, listen, we will impose sanctions on you and we will not send you anything if you don't stop this, if you don't stop doing this. Otherwise, if you're not doing that, that means somewhere tacitly you're saying, great, I cannot bomb Iran, Trump can, let him go and bomb Iran because I want this done. You do my dirty work.
It's the same like with US tariffs. It was every country for itself. Instead of any countries, okay, in the EU, European Union was doing something together, but so members of the European Union were working to the European Commission, but otherwise everybody was working on for himself. And unsurprisingly, well, some came away better, others less so. But that's the essence of the problem. Nobody is cooperating. If now really India and China would come together and say, listen, the Americans, we are fed up of this, you're causing us immense damage, it would be a different situation. But you see even the Gulf Arabs who are suffering massively and who are going to feel this. I mean, if they are not aware that they are going to feel this for the next 5 to 10 years, they are then super stupid, nothing else. If they are not acting against this,
no, but I think there is a problem there,
that?
Tom. Somewhere all these nations are worried that Iran was very close to becoming a nuclear power. And they don't want right across the Persian Gulf for Iran to have. And the other thing is this whole fear or maybe this perception that Iran was going ballistic with its ballistic missiles program is something very real. Now look at the last 10 days and that's proof that Iran had really upped and ramped up their ballistic missiles program. Despite so much of pounding, if the Iranians can still send ballistic missiles, that means they had sunken a large part of their monies into developing this entire missile program. And that was a problem for all these countries because there is not going to be oil in the next 10, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years.
There's no doubt about that Iran has spent, 120 billion for saving Private Bashar in Syria and then another 100 billion for upping its arsenal of ballistic missiles and air defenses. But nothing of this is evidence that Iran was 2 weeks short of making a nuclear bomb, so to meme Israelis again. I am also not convinced that everybody around there is super certain that Iran was 2 weeks short of nuclear weapon. Iran could have developed nuclear weapon any time of the day. It didn't.
Right.
Any time of the day since, well, sometimes in 2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
They even run exercises that one can describe as related to handling of nuclear weapons at one point in time in the mid-2000s. So this is not a question about this. They could, but they didn't. That's the point. And all of this, it's pointless, to constantly repeat Israeli memes which are unsupported. That's the point.
Can I ask you a question, Tom? Now, where are we in this war? Who's winning this war? What has Iran got up its sleeve, if anything at all?
That is very simply explained.
And on the other side,
any guerrilla, this is the same for any guerrilla, no matter where. There is one thing that is simple and valid for any such war. Any guerrilla that is not losing is winning.
wow, that's an interesting. So any guerrilla that is not losing is winning. And because they have gone guerrilla, it's difficult now to go in and defeat them. And secondly, when they have decided that they've appointed someone new, I'm not saying that guy holds the fortunes of the country in his hand, because it's the IRGC that does so. And it is so, as you've said yourself, federated right now, decentralized, that you really have to go down to the last command center. But I want to ask you, how long can Iran sustain?
Look, depends on what do you mean with sustain. Whether do you mean with ballistic missiles or UAVs or current UAVs, these conventional bigger UAVs or mini UAVs, FPVs and such things. If it's the later, then they can go on for months like this.
Wow.
Because you can still fly a UAV, a mini FPV, you can fly 40 kilometers.
We are being told by Israel every day that they are bombing their bunkers and this command center and Air Force command center every day.
That's the problem. The Israelis are principally of the kind, their general staff is of the kind that who does not recognize the existence of the enemy guerrilla. That's why they are so insistent on calling Hezbollah terrorists, Hamas is terrorists, but not a guerrilla, not a popular uprising. No, this is all terrorists to them. And they're always trying to explain it like they're some kind of a foreign body. Hezbollah is no foreign body to southern Lebanon. It is a grassroots movement that emerged in reaction to mass murder of the local Shia by the Israelis in the 1970s. They came out as a sort of self-defense force. Similarly, Hamas, I consider them privately terrorists because I know they would, first and foremost, they would kill such like me if they could get me in their hands. But technically speaking, they are a guerrilla, nothing else. They are part of Palestinian population in the West Bank, in the Gaza Strip. So you cannot tell now, oh, there are some terrorists that came from who knows from where. Perhaps they were beamed down from Mars, and therefore they do not belong there. They are legitimate resistance. The UN even said they are legitimate resistance to Israeli occupation. Therefore, the same with Iranians. Okay, you can call them terrorists or whatever else, and daydream about them killing thousands of Americans and thousands of Israelis. Call them whatever you like, but they are still grassroots movement. This is Islamic
UN's position. The UN's position, I disagree with on a lot of matters because it is very colored. It is not equanimous. The UN position is very, very colored in a lot of positions. Not always the way an Israeli would look at it, or even an Indian would look at it when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir. The UN has been very, very unkind to India in the past, and it continues to follow a very colonial-driven narrative. For me, the UN is a defunct body. That body, that president and all of them should hang their heads in shame, resign and pack their bags and go rather than, they are Secretary General. And they don't deserve the kind of money that they are drawing as salaries, the millions of euros that they are pocketing for running. What are they doing? There's not one naya paisa of contribution that they have done on any of the conflicts. They have not done anything. Even now, it is these individual nations that are doing their job. Right now, European Commission has just said that we do not see any concern or emergency situation about oil or gas supply. That's what they're saying. For the moment, all member states have between 85 to 90 days of stocks of oil or equivalent. If that's the case, why is a 30% jump in?
Because of speculation. That's what I wanted to add to all of this. Whatever Trump does usually has, let's say, some sort of underline or some sort of hidden agenda, which is enriching Trump and his clan.
Right.
Trump is somebody who insists on these so-called old values like fossil fuels. So you can expect him to be earning billions from all the speculations at the markets right now. Him and his buddies, which is Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, whoever, name them all. You know, this is just those who are coming to my mind. There are lots of other investors. They are all earning billions right now, and I'm talking about dozens of billions. So they're growing even more rich from this crisis and war. Yes. So this was that way already several times through the last year, when he was manipulating the markets. To different announcements and decisions, and then a few days later they would all, they earned,
the big news,
then they sold, and that's it.
That's also breaking in the background. is that Indonesia has finally inked the deal with India to buy BrahMos. So that's a big story. I know it's slightly unrelated, but I just thought that we talk about that a little bit. But just coming back to the...
I'll just tell you what this is doing is that you cannot give, if it's a global world order, one nation cannot have the right to decide who's a terrorist, who's not, and then go and attack that nation, attack that country, whereas the others keep quiet and sit on the sidelines. They cannot justify,
Anand,
they cannot say...
not been the case?
They cannot, no, but
this has
why
been
is
going on for...
This is why I see that there is a new world order. The global south, along with some of the global north, have to learn to stand up to nations like America, who cannot put other nations in trouble just to fill their pockets and to emerge out of recession and fuel back their own...
Let me ask you a question. Then let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Should India have taken a position?
Not India can't take a position alone.
Then no,
India
I'm
has
asking you.
the position
India,
has to be
someone
taken.
has to begin.
The BRICS nations,
So I'm
along
asking
with
you, so
BRICS nations, along with the G20 plus minus the US, should have taken a
So
position.
this is precisely...
European Union, global south.
So India wants to lead the global south.
Yeah.
It says that we are the leaders, not in that sense of the term, but we want to certainly be one of the representative voices of global south. And we have formed a large number of fora under Prime Minister Modi to represent the interests of the global south, and a large number of African countries and Southeast Asian economies have backed India's candidature, or you could say its leadership, right? So given this de facto tag, I'm asking you, should India have come out and said, sorry, we are no friends of the regime, we believe it is what it is, but we also do not support unilateral action, unsanctioned even by the US Congress, by the way, and interference in the internal affairs of a third country.
See, sadly, if it's the case of the fist and the individual finger. Now, an individual finger.
Waffling.
No, I'm not waffling. It's an individual.
No,
India cannot take a position like this because the Chinese have not taken a position like this. No, the Chinese have not taken a position
You could have picked up the hotline. Your BRICS. BRICS 40% of the global GDP.
That there's not a conversation. Like I said, there are two possibilities. One, that there are nations who do not like the method.
Did China not come out and criticize?
There are two possibilities. I'm just saying that there are nations who want this to be done, the regime change to happen, but do not agree with the way it's being done. Then there are nations who are blindly dependent on America for their own existence. So whatever America does, they'll say, all right, okay, fantastic. From my point of view, I think India is on the first part, where they did not want this regime to continue. They wanted democracy or a particular moderation to come into Iran, but they may not agree with the way Trump is going about this business. But can India be the only one who can speak about it on its own? No, India cannot.
Question.
But can India, China come together along with some of the other BRICS?
Following question.
I agree. They should.
Following question.
Yeah.
Okay, see, look, Anand, this is all very well. I like your spirit and all of this, but you're running away from the basic question.
What?
Some of these matters have been put to vote in the United Nations.
Yes.
Many countries voted.
Correct.
So you can't say that India was going to be an outlier, sticking out like a sore thumb. Even there we didn't take a position.
No.
I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate. Where in Ukraine did we take a position?
We didn't.
The problem
The whole world said, the whole
we
world
took a
said,
position.
only 8 countries
took a position with
in the first vote. Okay, listen to me. Only 8, I'm giving you facts.
Correct.
Okay? Only 8 countries in the world voted against the fact that only 8 countries supported Russia on its invasion of Ukraine. The rest of the world opposed it, and a large number of countries abstained. One of those countries.
India was one of them.
So then,
there's nothing wrong, because I'm going to look at my interest. Did Ukraine vote for me? No, my question. Did Ukraine vote for us? Did Ukraine vote for us when it came to Jammu and Kashmir?
This is what he's saying.
Did Ukraine vote for us? No, Ukraine didn't vote for us. I'm going to look at my interest. But who? And Russia is my all-time friend. I may privately tell the Russians that your invasion of Ukraine is not right. Don't do it this way.
Listen to me.
But I'm not going to take a position again, because I'm going to look at my own interest.
Your question was, why don't everybody stand up? Because as Tom says, people are looking out for themselves.
No. In this case,
everybody has some kind of open bills and
open
accounts
bills
and whatever.
And all are okay, but there is a limit to which you will allow one nation to dictate terms, and then it's only when the rest of them come together that this nation will listen to this rest.
Where do they come together?
You
can't come together in the United Nations. You can't come together.
In the United Nations, the question was not about America. In the United Nations,
it will come.
The question in the case of Russia, Ukraine, what did India say?
Okay, so I'm asking you,
we're the
has
only country who
Russia-
have an open
Has Russia been
conversation
critical?
corridor
Has
with
Russia
both
been
Ukraine
critical?
and
Has
Russia.
in-
That's because of the position
okay,
we have taken.
in this, okay. So let's
It's
look
our-
at,
it's our- yeah.
look at this. Hang on. The BRICS is 40% of the world GDP. Yeah? Around that much?
Correct.
Okay, so let me ask you. China has criticized America for its invasion of Iraq.
Yeah.
Russia has criticized.
Uh,
That's 2 out of the
Yeah.
5 BRICS countries.
Yeah.
There's India,
yeah.
there's South Africa.
Yeah. But you know the position that China and
One
Russia
second,
have
one
against the
second.
US.
But there you go.
No, that's an
So
adversarial
I'm saying, now,
position
when are you
already.
going to stand
No,
up
that's
and
a
say
very
to America, because we are getting hurt,
but the Chinese
we are going to
going
pay more for oil.
But what I'm
You've
trying
been
to say-
asked not to even to buy oil from
No,
Russia
no, no.
till they said,
It's a sanction. If it's a sanction, then it's a sanction.
sanction not against
have to
China.
honor the sanction. The sanctions have been. The sanctions were there.
Again,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Really, I understand your point. I've spent now a few minutes thinking of it, and you are right. Theoretically, one could say, hey, India should now call Russia and say, okay, stop doing that in Ukraine or whatever you are doing. The question is on basis of what you're then making that fundamental change in your politics, foreign politics.
No, not
The
just
question
that.
is if you want to do that or not, because it's fundamentally different than until now.
Correct.
That is what I'm pointing at.
Correct. Now, my point is, from India's point of view, is Pakistan what it's doing, is it not dangerous to my sovereignty?
Of course it is.
If it is dangerous to my sovereignty, what do I expect my friend to come and tell me when I go ahead and conduct Operation Sindoor? All right, do it, but don't try. But put your limits and don't cross a particular limit. Now, if there is another nation which says, listen, if they come here, I am gone. It's my security, and I'm doing it to protect my sovereignty. I have to do what I've got to do because it's preemption. I have to listen to that person while I listen to the other person
Honestly,
also and say,
fully.
listen, somebody attacking you is not fair to you. So it's two sides of the coin, and you have to appreciate. But what's in it for me is the question that I have to ask as a nation. I have to ask.
So this is the question.
Yeah, that's what.
This is the question very quickly before I bring
Yeah,
in
they're
Tom.
going to wind up. Yeah.
What is in it for us? We're going to be paying the price of a war that we didn't start. Twice over.
If this ends in 30 days, are we really going to pay a price? Have the prices actually increased? Do we have a stock of 50 days? And if it's going to be replenished and at a cost which is not going to pinch our pockets and we can afford it, then what happens? Okay, we're going to pause it there and we'll take this conversation forward. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.